Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's training, How to Do Business in Illinois. This session, as noted, is presented by the Illinois Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, at Bell Bronzeville, and we're so happy to have you with us today. So let's talk about the who, what, where, and how. Who we are, again, we're the Illinois SBDC at Bell Bronzeville, and I specifically am Rebecca Chauncey, a business advisor here at our center. What we do, simply put, we provide one-on-one advising for entrepreneurs as they plan, start, and grow their business. We also provide training like this one, workshops, and connections to small business resources. And we're located right in the heart of Bronzeville at 5055 South Prairie. And as you can see there, you can reach us via phone, email, and our website. And how? So the services that we provide at the Illinois SBDC at Bell Bronzeville, as well as today's training, are funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the United States Small Business Administration, or the USSBA, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and the Urban Juncture Foundation. So let's talk about what we will and what we won't cover today. We'll discuss legal entity setup. Certainly, we need to address how you register your business, including home-based businesses. We'll discuss the federal EIN number, how you register for business taxes, opening a business bank account, business insurance, and a business plan. We will not address SBA or other loans, nor grants or government contracts. And lastly, we won't cover MBE or WBE certification. So, actually, before I move into what you do once you have this great business idea, if you have questions today, I kindly ask that you type them in the Q&A section, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button, and you can add any questions you have there. If relevant in the moment, I will address it then, but there will also be time at the end of the presentation specifically for Q&A. So just remember that, type your questions in the Q&A, not the chat. So you have a great business idea. What do you do next? Well, the first thing we recommend is that you complete this feasibility checklist. It, as I tell clients, serves as a wonderful way to have a heart-to-heart conversation with yourself about your business idea and if it really makes sense, right? A great example is, just because people cook well doesn't mean that they should all open restaurants or start catering businesses, because they require different things. So this feasibility checklist is based on a checklist that's actually in a Starting Your Business in Illinois handbook, which you'll receive at the end of the training, or specifically with the follow-up training information. And once you work on that and you see that it actually makes sense to move forward and have a business, then you can start working on your business pitch and a business plan, which is a living document, and it takes some time, but it's requested by anyone taking your business seriously, for lending, investments, and some commercial landlords, and many support resources, for example. It only takes you and research. And then you will need to set up your business infrastructure should you move forward with the business plan. And that requires other people and entities. So you can do that while you're working on that business plan. So let's get into the details of the business plan. Again, it's good for outlining what you know as well as what you don't know. And this is a large part of what we do at the SBDC. We assist clients in creating their business plan, and we guide you through the process. And remember that this business plan isn't just for lenders or getting loans, but for you to think through your idea and strategies. All lenders and investors, like I mentioned before, will look for a business plan, as well as some family and friends who you may want to serve as investors. They can see that you are serious, right? You want them to be able to read through the business plan and picture exactly what you need to or what you're looking to do with your business concept. So logic and thorough explanations in a business plan trump accuracy. The readers, like investors, they know that you don't know every single thing about the business, but they want to see how well you've thought through it. And then certainly this business plan will include your marketing plan. And remember that marketing to everyone is marketing to no one. Just because, for example, you may have an e-commerce business doesn't mean that your market is the entire world. There are certain things that only there's, I should say, there are certain people, right, that can really benefit from your services or products, and you want to make sure you speak to them in your marketing. And then in the sales plan, what makes that different from the marketing one is that it's how you will convert interested parties into paid customers. And then certainly your business plan includes a financial forecast, detail and logic, and again, in the assumptions, trump the number accuracy. It's about you doing thorough research as much as possible. And because the business plan is dynamic, you can make updates as needed. And we actually suggest that you start with a streamlined or napkin business plan before you have this full business plan. It's it's a great starting point, and then you can grow from there. We have a good example of a pitch in the training recording, Pitch Perfect, which, yes, you will receive a copy of this slide deck in the follow-up email for the training. And so you'll be able to click on that link to take a look at that training at your convenience. So let's move through the steps of how you set up your business infrastructure, right? When you're doing business legally in Illinois and specifically in Chicago. Understand that each entity has its own benefits and drawbacks regarding cost, complexity, tax implications, and the ability to raise capital. But this is your step one, setting up this legal entity. We recommend that you consult an accountant and or a lawyer with detailed questions. So the first example for your consideration for a legal entity is the sole or general proprietorship. You will submit an application with the county clerk. It's a one-time fee of $50. You complete the application and you'll need to provide a legal notice. You file that notice in the local newspaper for once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. And then you'll provide proof of that notice to the clerk's office. The city will provide an assumed business name certificate. And the things that you need to be mindful of, though, if you choose the sole or general proprietorship, there's no separation between your business and personal assets, taxes, and debts. So if someone unfortunately wanted to sue you, they would have access or be able to tap into your personal assets because you have no separation. On the other hand, there's the LLC or LLP. With those, this is a common legal entity, and you probably have heard of it before. Some of you may already have one. You must file that with the Illinois Secretary of State's office. That's $150, and then there's an annual renewal fee of $75. It provides protection for your personal assets. And owners file profits and losses on their personal income taxes. This is not an option for banking and insurance businesses, though. And in order to maintain your personal and business liability protection, you must keep them separate. You don't want to do what's called piercing the corporate veil, which is mixing your business and personal finances, because then that dissolves the protection of them being separate. And then lastly, we have corporations, right? This is the most complex legal entity. You also must file for this through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. It also costs $150 with the annual renewal fee of $75. You must have a board of directors. You can sell shares of stock. There's protection for personal assets. And with the C Corp, just note that you are double taxed. So shareholders have to report dividends, the capital gains, and profits paid to them on personal income taxes. Plus, the corporation must file its own taxes. On the other hand, there's the S Corp. This is a tax status that must be filed with the IRS. It's not a legal entity. And what happens is income passes through to owners, personal income taxes like the LLC. And also note that the S Corp status for an LLC, that's an option. LLC members also pay self-employment tax, basically for Social Security and Medicare. By getting the S Corp status, it eliminates this tax because S corporations aren't considered to be self-employed. But just remember that if you don't put any money into Social Security, you can't get any out come retirement time. So just something to keep in mind. Are there any questions? Remember, you're going to type your questions in the Q&A section. I don't see any at this time, so we'll move right along. We found this business entity comparison table to be very helpful. It breaks down the differences between the entities and just a nice overview of things that you can consider when determining what's best for you. Another point, another legal entity rather that I love to share with you is the social enterprise. So that's a hybrid legal entity. So there's a for-profit and nonprofit arm to it. And it's legally a for-profit business with legal social obligations. You may see it as L3C or benefit corporation. The LLC is primarily for a for-profit mission, but the social obligation is secondary. And that L3C, right, has primary philanthropic mission and the profit is secondary. Again, you should consult an attorney for details and to establish this entity should you choose to move forward with it. The second step as you set up your business infrastructure is to establish your business name. So that entity name, the legal company name may be, in this example, ABC Company LLC, or if you choose the corporation, it could be ABC Company Corp. You file this, as I mentioned before, with the Secretary of State's office. And if needed, you may file doing business as or DBA, which would be an assumed name. Let's say, and you file that with the Cook County Clerk's office or the Secretary of State. It depends on which business entity you choose. And the reason why some people choose to file DBAs is because they may, let's say again, your legal company name may be ABC Company LLC, but at some point you may decide that there's the majority of your business has to do with, I know this is a far stretch, but Legos, let's say. So instead of just being ABC Company LLC, you may want to file DBA ABC Legos. right? Because that's what you want to be able to put in the marketplace more so than the ABC Company LLC. And so if that's the case, you have to file for a DBA through, as I said, the Cook County Clerk's Office or the Illinois Secretary of State's office. And then lastly, you may consider trademark, right? If you decide to trademark, you do that through the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Some business owners choose to trademark their name and logo, but each one is separate. Like, so you would have to file a trademark for the name, you could file one for the logo, and you could file one for both of them together. And you can, again, this is something that you can do, and we've had trainings in the past, workshops actually with the United States Patent and Trademark Office where you could learn to do it yourself, but also you may consider working with an attorney on it too. And as far as that DBA is concerned, let's talk a little bit more about who's required to file that. So under state law, there are 3 classes of businesses required to register to assume names with the local county clerk's office. So that's the sole proprietor, the general proprietor, and for professional service corporations. So does an LLC or LLP need a DBA? Yes, if you plan to operate under any other name than your legal entity name. And I had just given you an example of that, right? And you will, again, file that through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. One moment, I see that there's a question. So this person is asking if it is for a travel agency, which is not required to license in Illinois or Chicago, do you recommend doing either or both? Well, so if you're doing business in Chicago, you do need to you'll need to get a business, you'll have to get a business license, right? And we'll talk about the Chicago business license in a bit, but you also will need to set up a business, legal entity. And it's up to you again as to whether or not you want to do that through the state, depending on if you get an LLC or a corporation as your legal entity, or if you choose to have a sole proprietorship. I hope that answers your question. And no, someone is asking a question about if we have a working relationship with land bank authorities. We do not. Thanks for your questions. We're going to continue. Just a moment. All right, so we talked about those DBA and who needs to file those and why. The next step in setting up your business infrastructure is to register for your EIN, or what's known as the Federal Employer Identification Number. So it's not required for sole proprietors unless there are employees, but it is required if you have an LLC or corporation. This is required to open a business bank account. It protects your Social Security number, and it's free. Step 4 in setting up your business infrastructure is setting up that business bank account. Common accounts include checking, savings, credit card, and merchant services. It's necessary to keep personal and business finances 100% separate, right? You don't want to do what's called commingling funds. It is important to keep your personal and business finances separate. I am emphasizing that because it's very important. And your EIN or your Social Security number are required to open the business bank account. We recommend that you work with smaller local regional banks or credit unions. like Wintrust, Self-Help Credit Union. There's Providence, for example, in Bronzeville, as well as CIBC. And BMO is a good middle ground. We have some clients that have had some success with Chase and BOA and Citi, but um, they're not small business banks, or specifically not really geared towards working with micro businesses. And so, you just certainly want to see what's best for you. And that could even start with having a conversation with a business banker, in addition to looking at their websites to see what they offer and consider your business needs. The next step, as we talk about setting up your business infrastructure, is to register for Illinois sales and business taxes. Again, the disclaimer that the SBDC is not an accounting or legal service, so we highly recommend meeting with an accountant and an attorney to provide specific details and advice for your business. But the way that the sales tax works, and you would file that through the Illinois Department of Revenue. You certainly want to be mindful of when you do that, though. You don't want to apply when you're in the planning or ideation stage, because the clock starts on you needing to report and file. If you're preparing to open and need to apply for your city license, you can do so with the future date that you plan to start operating in this application. But oftentimes we recommend that clients don't set up their sales tax ID through iDoor until about a month before they're going to open. Because again, as soon as you set this account up with the Illinois Department of Revenue, they're going to expect you to start paying taxes. So, just be mindful of that. Businesses are responsible for many forms of taxes, including income, self-employment, sales, excise, and there's other. But most commonly is sales tax and various payroll-related taxes. Service businesses may not be required to charge or pay sales taxes, right? So essentially, if you're only providing a service, there are no products, there's no need for you to collect taxes on those services from your clients. But if you are selling products, let's say you're a speaker, and you also, while you're speaking at various engagements or workshops, you also sell books, then you could benefit from setting up this sales tax ID account so that you can collect sales tax on your books or any other product. So accountants estimate that you set aside 30 to 35% of revenue for taxes. Are there any additional questions before I move forward? Okay. The next step, as you set up your business in Illinois, are licenses, permits, and registration. Oh, what fun. A Chicago business license is required, as I mentioned this briefly earlier. It's required to conduct, engage in, maintain, operate, or manage any business in the city of Chicago. And you can look at the list of different business licenses on the Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection website. It's also known as BACP. Their office is on the 8th floor of City Hall. Fees and filing requirements vary by industry. And just a heads up that for those of you that need home-based business licenses, you will have to go into the office in order to apply for those. And I've recently had clients go, and it takes about an hour. So just, keep that in mind. Most licenses and permits require your county, state, and federal steps to be completed first, which is why we put this in this order. Certain exemptions, for businesses licensed by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation may not require you to get the Chicago business license. Some exceptions include banking and financial institutions and some professional services like architects, the CPA, real estate brokers. And you can see a list of those exceptions on that link there. Again, you will get the slide deck with the clickable link so that you could take a look at this at your convenience. Also, it's important to note that, speaking of home-based businesses, there is a home-based business ordinance through the city of Chicago. You can get a home-based business license for certain business types. There are some that are excluded, and you can see the full list on that via that website that's linked there, and you can contact BACP if needed. Again, that's the Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Department. But the excluded businesses include food and beverage. That includes catering. You cannot sell food and beverages from your home, even if you have a cottage food license that requires some different things. And you also cannot have beauty, barber, or cosmetology related businesses in your home, nor can your home serve as a public place of amusement, such as an event space, lounge, or live music. And you cannot manufacture beauty products from your home. Permissible businesses are allowed 300 square feet or 25% of total floor area to be used for business. You also are allowed to store products on site in an unattached accessory building that can include a garage or shed, as long as it's completely enclosed. And you are allowed to have products on display for retail purchase. Some other things to note as it relates to your home-based business. The guidelines outline bulk delivery hours and quantities, store operating hours, and restrictions on building signage. You also have a set amount of people allowed in store at a time and per day. Site inspection is not included in the application process. And yes, your home address becomes public record because it's the location of the business. So if you're sensitive to that, just be careful or mindful of that. You may say that you absolutely don't want a home-based business, even if you have the kind of business that is allowed to operate in a home. And you can watch the full webinars presented on the BACP YouTube channel. And they have some other trainings that may be helpful to you as well. And then the next step in setting up your business legally in Illinois, you have to have business insurance. It's essential for protecting your business from unexpected loss or casualty. There are 4 essential types: general liability, business personal property, and workers' compensation. Remember, flood almost always has to be added. Home insurance does not cover your home office, so be mindful of that. It's separate coverage. And we have a great training that speaks to the details of business insurance that you will find via that clickable link. The next step is to build a team of professionals. You want to build a team of trusted advisors and professionals before you need them in this business journey. So that includes an accountant and bookkeeper, an attorney, an insurance agent, and your bank or loan officer. Utilize advisors like us here at the SBDC or BACP advisors and other free services so that you can move forward in great ways and, not feel like you are alone. And sometimes that feeling can come as you build your business. And then if you want to work with us, you can sign up and become a client. You can do that just as you do that through eCenter Direct, which is the same place that you signed up for today's training. If you're not already a client, that's your space to do so. You could choose to become a client via eCenter. We assist you with things like I mentioned, developing your business plan. You can get advice on foundational accounting, legal, and finance questions. And we certainly provide referral options to professional service providers. And again, you could see where to reach out via email or our phone number there. I see some questions and I will certainly address them. Thank you for the questions. I'll address them shortly. Just a few more points I want to share with you. So it's important to stay informed about changes in business laws and regulations. The first thing that we recommend you do is to subscribe to the BACP or the Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Department's newsletter. They share up-to-date information about business laws for the city of Chicago, and that's certainly important for you to keep in mind. And you may have heard of this beneficial ownership information reporting. So it's also known as BOI. It is a part of the U.S. Treasury Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And you may have heard a number of things. Like last year, in the beginning of last year, you were required, if your business had been created before January 1st, 2024, you needed to submit this report to the U.S. Treasury by a certain date, and that has since changed, right? And the reason why this is needed is if your company, I should clarify, if your company is an LLC or corporation or other entity that was created by filing a document with the Secretary of State or similar offices, you were required to submit this report. Now, I say were because as of December 31st, 2024, the latest published extended deadline to submit this BOI or the beneficial ownership information report was January 13th, 2025. And that date certainly has passed, but it's still because of ongoing legal issues, you're not necessarily required to submit it at this time. Some business owners are filing on a voluntary basis now rather than waiting for the outcome of the court review. You can see more, and I certainly recommend that you stay current with this particular situation via the website there, fincin.gov/BOI, because once this is enforced, as it was noted last year, non-compliance penalties of up to $500 a day could be, you could be at fault or liable for those, and then criminal penalties of up to 2 years imprisonment and a fine of up to $10,000. So no one wants to, you don't want to pay $10,000 if you don't have to, right? But again, it is not required, it's voluntary. People are submitting on a voluntary basis now. So stay up to date by looking at the fincin.gov/BOI website. Another thing that you want to keep in mind with your business is know that the Illinois Retirement Savings Program is something that you need to factor in. Every private sector employer that has been in business for at least 2 years and has 5 or more Illinois employees should offer their own qualified retirement plan or facilitate the Illinois Secure Choice Retirement Savings Program. This started last January. Employers face fines of $250 per employee for the first calendar year of noncompliance and $500 per employee for any subsequent year of noncompliance. We have a training that you can watch for more information on that. And then also keep in mind minimum and sub-minimum wages. In 2023, the One Fair Wage Ordinance passed, ending sub-minimum wages for tipped workers in Chicago. And so current sub-minimum wages will increase by 8% every year until they match the standard minimum wage in 2028. Each yearly increase starts on July 1st. And lastly, no paid leave. So paid leave for all workers act requires employers in the state to provide their employees at least 1 hour of paid leave for every 40 hours they work, and it's every 35 hours for Chicago businesses. I know I've said a mouthful and I appreciate your attention. So I know we have some questions already. Remember, if you have questions, you can type them in the Q&A section, or you can raise your hand at this time and I can give you the space to say your question aloud because you may not be in the space to type. So the BACP link, I don't have the chat open at this time, but that link, like I said, you'll receive a follow-up email requesting that you complete a survey about today's training, and you'll also get the slide deck with these clickable links, so you'll be able to access that once I send it. And then someone had a question, is it free or do you have to pay? I think, and you have the word client, I think you're asking if it's free for you to become an SBDC client. Yes, it is. There's no charge to work with us. So if that's not what you were referring to, please clarify that for me and raise your hand if need be, and I'd be more than happy to address that. But are there any other questions before we move forward? It looks like I addressed all questions. So again, just you will get a follow-up email. Kindly ask that you will complete the survey. We'd like to provide training that's helpful to business owners and provide you insight so that you can apply that insight and continue to move forward and excel in your business. There's also space on that survey for you to share other recommendations for training that you think could be valuable. And we'll take that into consideration as we plan future sessions. You will again get the slide deck with those clickable links. And I don't see any final questions. So that is it for today. I so appreciate your time and attention. Hope that this was very helpful. And here's to starting or continuing to grow your amazing business. Continue to have a great day. Thank you.